This is the iPhone 16 Pro Max and this is the new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. Honestly, both of these phones have super boring updates when it comes to the camera hardware. For me, Chinese brands like Vivo, Xiaomi, Huawei have been more innovative lately. But I am pretty sure most of us are still going to either buy an iPhone or Samsung because of their brand value and that incredible credibility they have gained over the years. So, which one is a better camera phone in 2025? For this, I have divided this comparison into a total of 15 aspects and have given 1 point to each round, so you might want to check the scoreboard from somewhere here. So now, let's get started. Okay, when we look at the camera specs of these two phones, the only thing we get new here is the high-res ultra-wide sensors, 48 megapixel on iPhone and 50 megapixel on Samsung. But with the new and improved chipsets, software tweaks and AI on both of these phones, things look much more interesting. And the first thing you will instantly notice here is with the ultra-wide photos. We finally get respectable details from both of these when we zoom in. During the day, the iPhone has that classic warm tone, whereas Samsung likes to go with a cooler hue. But on so many occasions, both of these phones have fairly similar results. However, I found out that in some photos like this one, the iPhone's detail preservation and highlights are slightly better in white areas, whereas Samsung has a soft output. But if I'm clicking photos with sky in it, Samsung's images look much more pleasing and it also tends to brighten up the shots during the dawn time, making it look much better than iPhone's somewhat dark and uninspiring photos. Maybe that's because Samsung has a wide f1.9 aperture versus f2.2 on iPhone. Just look at this image I shot around 5 PM in the evening. Samsung looks much brighter and more likable than iPhone. However, if I'm clicking photos against the sun like at 3 PM, for some reason Samsung crushes the shadows and it looks somewhat darker and unpolished. This looks more like a software issue, so hopefully the new update will fix this issue. Similarly, look at this Bhairab image I took here. iPhone does slightly better while Samsung messes up with the contrast. In these photos too, you can see that iPhone's warm color tone looks more true to life, but like 50% of the time, Samsung's ultra-wide shots also look more pleasing, so I guess I will just have to split a point here. Now, when it gets darker, Samsung's ultra-wide camera just crushes the iPhone's output. Samsung is brighter, it has less noise, and if you zoom in a bit in tight areas, you will notice better details on Samsung too. I also found the color and white balance to be better on Samsung. Just look at this Krishna temple photo. Samsung looks much closer to reality than the iPhone. Even turning on night mode on both of these phones, you can see that Samsung does a better job of managing the lights. So yes, during night time, Samsung's new ultra-wide camera is slightly ahead of the iPhone. Okay, so which phone has a better primary camera then? And if you remember last year, it was so difficult for me to pick the exact winner in this category, and after clicking a lot of photos, this year it's even more closer. Both of these phones have their pros and cons. For example, look at this image. Here, Samsung has better highlight management and its cooler tone looks more realistic and appealing, whereas the iPhone seems to have messed up the highlights. However, if I'm clicking photos against the sun, there's the same shadow crushing issue which we saw with the ultra-wide shots, so definitely Samsung needs an update to fix it. iPhone manages the dynamic range and overall processing well. Plus, since the iPhone clicks the photos in 24 megapixel versus 12 megapixel on Samsung, the details are even better on the iPhone if you zoom in. There is yet again this warm tone on the iPhone in opposition to the cooler tone on Samsung. So if I'm clicking photos like this, Samsung comes out better, whereas iPhone makes the whole photo warm. However, in this photo, the iPhone 16 Pro Max's warm tone just looks very natural to me. One challenge I found with the iPhone is that it cannot go that close and it wants you to switch to the macro mode instead, whereas Samsung can go close enough. However, when we're talking about close-up shots, here you can see from this image, iPhone has better separation and details, whereas in this photo, Samsung's vibrant photo looks more eye-catching to me. So it's only fair that we share points yet again in the daytime photos from their main cameras. During low light, on most occasions, I found iPhone's warm tone looking particularly attractive, like in this photo of the Buddha temple. It has better details and highlights too. Plus, check out this photo of Dio or this photo of the star. I think the iPhone looks way better. However, it's not always that the iPhone is better at, like in this photo where Samsung's color processing is aesthetically pleasing. But overall, during low light from the main camera, I have to give a point to the iPhone 16 Pro Max. It's just better optimized. Okay, let's talk about zoom photography now, and here Samsung has two zoom lenses, 3x telephoto and 5x periscope, whereas you only get a 5x periscope lens on the iPhone. This means if you zoom in from say 3x to 4.9x, Samsung's photos have nicer details and minimal noise than the iPhone. But in the 5x photos, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is also not so bad. In fact, during low light, I found the iPhone to be processing the image surprisingly better than Samsung. When it's very dark, the iPhone's night mode kicks in and takes like 3 to 4 seconds to take the photo with much better sharpness and colors. That said, Samsung is simply unmatched if you go beyond 5x zoom like in 10x or 25x shots and beyond. Even lets you shoot up to 100x photos of the moon, so when it comes to zoom photos, Samsung still holds a strong advantage. This 5x lens is also responsible for shooting portrait images, and I am going to be straight with you guys. I really like the kind of optimization Samsung has done with the skin tone and the contrast this time. For example, in this 5x portrait of mine, the iPhone has just messed up my skin and made it look so red, while Samsung's sort of yellow tone makes me look better. Even at other times, the 16 Pro Max is a bit inconsistent with the skin. Sometimes it's too warm, sometimes it's making you too brown, and not to mention its shadow processing really sucks. To be fair, in 1x and 2x portraits, the iPhone can maintain better details versus the softer output from Samsung, but again, color optimization wise, I don't think Samsung's got competition here. In fact, Samsung lets you slide between 1x to 5x like this, which provides greater flexibility if you wish to switch to other focal lengths like 2.5x or 4x for instance. The iPhone just has 3 focal lengths. And with the dedicated 3x lens on the S25 Ultra, you can get some great photos for social media with balanced highlights and dynamic range. The iPhone 16 Pro Max just does not have this option. Edge detection in portraits is quite similar on both, like 90% of the time, although there have been instances like these where the iPhone 16 Pro Max just magically erased my colleague's ear altogether. The S25 Ultra brings out sharper and more pleasing portraits at night too. In this image right here, iPhone's output is a bit more muddy while Samsung has processed the image so well. So as I said earlier, I really like the kind of optimization that Samsung has done with the portraits here. Again, I can't help but notice how well the Vivo X200 Pro does. It is just the portrait king right now, but still among the two of our candidates, Samsung takes away the cake. That good color optimization extends to the selfie camera as well. The selfies from the S25 Ultra, albeit having a narrow field of view, have such pleasing colors and good shadow management. The iPhone's photos are first of all a little too dark, second of all the contrast is all over the place, and number 3, the highlight management is just not very good. So it's Samsung for me again. Likewise, Samsung just keeps doing better with the skin in selfie videos. In good lighting conditions, both the phones do an excellent job when it comes to stabilization and even colors. But whenever there is a bright light in the background, like this for instance, the iPhone cannot handle the exposure very well. As you can see, the sky is miserably overblown here. And that happened in almost all of the selfie videos I took. So I thought I should give Samsung a point yet again. But then I thought, hey, people might take selfie videos at night too. And then I checked both phones' nighttime selfie videos, and it was iPhone that did a superior job at exposure, details, everything. In any way, I think it's fair to say that both phones have their strengths. Alright, so when it comes to videography in general, like from the main camera, I am so glad to see that Samsung has improved a lot and in a lot of instances. This was one area where iPhones were always ahead of Samsung, but now I have found both the S25 Ultra and the iPhone 16 Pro Max doing a similar job, stabilization-wise, color-wise, everything. But still, there are a few things that the iPhone is slightly better at, like when you switch from the main to the ultra-wide or telephoto lens, the iPhone's transition is a bit smoother. Also, I found the highlight management on the iPhone 16 Pro Max to be better than on Samsung in really sunny environments. At night too, iPhone's videos are cleaner and relatively noise-free than Samsung's. Like here for example, you can clearly see a lot of graininess in Samsung's footage when you zoom into the buildings, but the iPhone does not have such problems. Having said that, there are a few perks that you get with Samsung as well, like being able to switch between the front and back cameras while shooting, or the fact that you can just hold the videos like this to turn and save them into slow-mos. These are quite intuitive features. But still, when you consider the core video quality, the iPhone is a tiny bit ahead. Now, switching to the ultra-wide lens for videos is a different story altogether, because be it nighttime or broad daylight, Samsung's new 50-megapixel ultra-wide camera is able to maintain better brightness, slightly better stabilization and good colors in ultra-wide videos. There have been one or two instances where the iPhone 16 Pro Max has managed the highlights better, and generally the iPhone has a wider field of view, but most times I have gotten nicer and more pleasing ultra-wide videos from Samsung. So here I would like to side with the S25 Ultra. Now, judging zoom videos at 5x was tough for me though. Apart from slightly different colors, I found the stabilization, the exposure management details and all to be quite similar. So it's fair that I share a point here. Next, I would like to talk about a couple of other video features like portrait videos and slow-mo. And here, both of these phones are capable of shooting portrait or cinematic videos up to 4K 30fps. And in good lighting conditions, both the phones produce great blur and great skin tone as well. Edge detection is also quite similar on both. But there is a twist. If you move from good lighting to slightly difficult lighting, Samsung's videos start becoming darker and dynamic range takes a dip, while the iPhone can manage the light change quite effortlessly. Even in the case of slow-mos, when you're shooting still, both the devices do a great job. But if you're moving, you will notice jerkiness in Samsung's output, which is not the case with the iPhone. Lastly, since these are high-end camera phones, there are just so many extra or let's say special camera features. So let's talk a bit about that too. This year, Samsung has finally added a log video feature, and the S25 Ultra lets you shoot log videos up to 8K 30fps. The iPhone 16 Pro Max lets you go up to 4K 120fps only, but both phones let you shoot at 10-bit. Just remember, if you wish to shoot log videos at 4K 60fps or beyond on iPhone, you will have to use an external storage device because the file size will be quite high. When it comes to flexibility for color grading, both are good. Next, audio, and here both phones have great quality microphones. Both phones offer noise reduction / voice enhancement features too. On Samsung, it's called Audio Eraser, and on iPhone, we have Audio Mix. Everybody, there's a party going on in the background, and I think this is the perfect time to test the microphones. Right now, you're hearing the audio from Samsung. I've put its Audio Eraser with 100% noise cancellation, and now I'm switching to iPhone's audio with its Audio Mix at 100% strength. Which audio do you like? Just let me know in the comments below. Right now, I'm just going to join the party. But what I do appreciate about Samsung is their revamped camera app. First of all, it's so much simpler and easier to use with one hand. All the settings are just right there, no confusion. Second, if you're a professional photo or videographer, Samsung offers greater flexibility with their Pro mode for photos and videos. Things like false color and zebra, which are not available on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Third, these two phones have their versions of filter options. On the iPhone, it's called photographic styles, and on Samsung, it's smart filters. There are a ton of options on both, so it's not fair to pick one, but I do have to mention that Samsung has an additional feature where you can custom select the color or style of one picture and paste it to another for a similar vibe. And even when it comes to AI features like AI Eraser, both Samsung and Apple do a considerably similar job while erasing. Both are pretty spot on, but Samsung provides an additional perk where it can generate certain parts of the image and you can move and resize stuff as well. Okay, so taking a closer look at the scoreboard, you can see that the Galaxy S25 Ultra takes the win, all thanks to its new ultra-wide sensor and improvements in skin tone while clicking selfies and portraits, giving it a slight edge. That said, the iPhone 16 Pro Max remains the king of video recording. Apple's video processing is just unmatched. However, I am quite disappointed to see that both of these brands are not focusing on macro photography. The macro photos that I am getting with their ultra-wide lenses are so far behind when compared to Chinese brands using their telephoto lenses. By the way, I'm also coming up with a detailed comparison between the S25 Ultra and the Vivo X200 Pro. I am waiting for the first update to roll out on the S25 Ultra, and as soon as that update comes in, it would be interesting to see if Vivo can actually take it down. So make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon. You don't want to miss that one.